Thank you. And here's what we're following today. Starting today at noon, if you are flying into Pearson Airport, you're going to need to take a COVID-19 test before you are allowed to leave the airport, or else you're facing a $750 fine. Premier Ford said that the province's new mandatory airport testing, it's going to serve as a stopgap until federal travel restrictions kick in within the next few weeks. Both the Premier and Prime Minister Trudeau announcing additional safety measures for travelers on Friday. Now, the list of federal restrictions include a mandated quarantine hotel that flyers will have to pay for out of their own pocket, mandatory testing, and a suspension on flights to the Caribbean and Mexico until at least April the 30th. What challenges lie ahead as these rules go into effect? We talked to an airline industry analyst at 7 this morning. We're going to break down all of these details. Well, just over a year into the pandemic, more than 20,000 Canadian lives have now been lost due to the COVID-19 virus. The milestone marked yesterday as Quebec and Ontario reporting 31 and 43 new deaths, respectively. Now, the combined death toll in both provinces accounting for about 80% of the fatalities across the country, I should say. Canada's COVID case count is now just under 779,000. The Coronavirus Resource Centre in Johns Hopkins University saying that Canada falls 16th on the list of the 20 countries most impacted worldwide. Now, we continue to follow grim numbers from the Roberta Place long-term care home in Barrie, where nearly 50% of the residents have now died from the virus. There have been 61 resident deaths at this 129-bed facility. An essential worker associated with the home has also died since the outbreak began early last month. Across the province, 230 long-term care homes are reporting COVID outbreaks. Meanwhile, the Ford government is responding to the crisis in Ontario's long-term care homes with an investment of $42 million to hire security guards. But advocates say it's a measure that nobody has asked for.
It will not make the residents safer. What we need to spend that money on is more nurses and skilled PSWs. Not one individual that I can think of would ever suggest contributing to a police state in long-term care.
Now, the Minister of Long-Term Care releasing this statement saying security guards could conduct screening at the homes in order to ensure frontline staff can remain focused on caring for residents. But advocates say frontline staff are too busy on the floors of homes, and it's administrative staff that are doing the screening. Well, COVID testing is being ramped up this week at the Gateway Mail Sorting Plant in Mississauga. Employees there, they must now undergo mandatory testing as the Canada Post facility struggles with an outbreak that has left one man dead and more than 200 employees infected since the beginning of January. The testing is being carried out under the direction of Peel Public Health. More than 4,500 people work at this site. All right, so we continue to follow vaccine news. Health Canada says it is expediting the review of all COVID-19 vaccines. Drug maker Novavax quietly submitted its shot for regulatory approval on Friday, less than 2 weeks after the federal government finalized a deal for 52 million doses. Health Canada says it is now conducting rolling submissions where data is being reviewed as it becomes available, making the approval process quicker once clinical trials are complete. Of course, everyone's going to be watching that. Well, investigators say it could take days to learn the cause of a fire in the Upper Beaches neighborhood here in Toronto that claimed the lives of 4 people. You'll remember we were following this story very closely Friday. 6 people in total pulled from the home after a fire broke out in the early morning hours on Gainsborough Road near Coxwell and Eastwood. 4 people were pronounced dead. 2 others rushed to hospital in life-threatening condition. It's unclear if their conditions have improved. The Ontario Fire Marshal is investigating, but says that the water and freezing temperatures will make the examination more difficult, and this could take several days. More students across the province heading back to school in person today. 4 more public health units in southern Ontario have the green light. Students with physical return to classrooms to the Ottawa, Eastern Ontario, Western, Southwestern and Middlesex London public health units. And this is going to be the first time back to class since the winter break for over 280,000 students. Meanwhile, students in Toronto, Peel, York, Hamilton, Windsor, Essex continuing virtual learning until at least February the 10th. We'll be watching those dates. Today, marking the beginning of Black History Month, and City News reporter Faiza Amin sat down with a politician and social justice advocate, Jean Augustine, to talk about how important it is to have role models.
If you can see it, you can be it.
Number 2 Construction Battalion served Canada proudly during the First World War. First Canadian.
The 2020 theme for Black History Month is Canadians of African descent going forward, guided by the past. That inspired by the theme of the United Nations International Decade for People of African Descent. Now, coming up here at 8 o'clock, you heard a piece of that interview that is with Faiza Amin. More on that interview is coming up, as well as we look ahead to the month. Toronto businessman and menswear fashion icon Saul Corman has died. And Corman, president of Corey's Clothier, you probably remember him on the Danforth. People called him the Duke of the Danforth, and was key in shaping Canadian men's fashion through passion and dedication. Mayor John Tory actually tweeting his condolences to the family, saying this: "We will never again see the likes of Saul Corman, the Duke of the Danforth. He was much more than the owner of a men's clothing store, one that I shopped in." His death was announced yesterday, but no details were released. Saul Corman dead at the age of 86. And we're going to continue to follow tributes here throughout the morning. An absolute staple in our Toronto community, that's for sure. All right, so we've got a lot more to follow here on Breakfast Television, including, as we mentioned, the first day of Black History Month here on BT. And at 8:30, after a year of protesting against racial injustice, how the sporting world will pay tribute to Black history this February. We've got Sportsnet's Donovan Bennett joining us live. And coming up next in business, Air Canada stocks, they are taking a tumble. 680 News senior business editor Mike Eppel, he's got all the reasons why coming up.